Ta-da!
Hello, we are
Guess who
on
it is?
location, live
Live.
in Kamloops. We are at, you're taking the long way around
I
now,
am.
just after you made fun of me for taking the long way around. We are at High Octane Comics with Nick Klie. Hello, Nick.
Oh, yes.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for
Excellent.
asking. How are you, Kelsey?
I'm good. Thank you.
Excellent.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good.
How are
Oh,
you, Nick?
yeah.
How are
But
you,
I
Nick?
wasn't listening.
Oh, she
I wasn't
ignored
listening
me.
when you answered, so good. We're all good.
Like I covered it.
Yeah, and we are here to talk about a number of things, but primarily we're here to talk about your book,
Yeah,
Life.
my comic book, Life The Necropolis.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is the second book I've self-published. This is the second Life comic. It came out this spring, and yeah, I have it for sale here at the store.
Nice. So it's your second comic. It's self-published. What does that look like as far as like self-publishing?
Well, you kind of want to abandon most of your life. You want to stay up really late at night, and you want to have a very forgiving, loving, and understanding wife to give you space to do that. Because I do it all. Like I write it, I draw it, I ink it, I color it, and then I have to produce all the pages. So like I got to get it all ready for printing. And then I talked to actually a bunch of printing companies all across the country, even some in the States. And the best price I got was here in Kamloops at a place called The Printing Place.
No way.
Yeah, they beat everybody. They beat big internet companies. They beat Vista Print, like all those kind of companies, right?
That's
That's good.
incredibly cool that you're able to produce this
And keep it local.
and keep it
Yeah.
completely local. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, is there, what's the sort of the throughput as far as like, what's the process to sit down from like you're going to write to draw or draw to write and then bring it into the computer and then get it to the printer? Like, what does that all look like?
Well, like I'll give you an example here. Like on the back of the comic, there's just this picture that has this this line here that says "Stop your crying, hold on." That's a song lyric.
Okay.
I was listening to a soundtrack for a movie called Streets of Fire, and I just was waiting for the bus one day, and I had that song playing, and I just started thinking about it, and I started thinking about like, okay, what would be a scenario that you could build off that lyric, and then I started creating this kind of conflict, this sort of story idea, and I had these rough points in my head, and then I kind of just start going from there. Like I know that there's going to be, like this one's 24 pages, so I know I have 24 pages to fill, and so I start writing kind of loose notes, and then sometimes like this one, I didn't really finish writing the whole story until I was about halfway done, and then I just, because I have a schedule, like I make 2 pages a month, so I just started drawing pages and getting it going, and then kind of trying to like build and just kind of understand where you're going to go eventually, so you don't fall like in any kind of pitfalls down the road, right? And then like I said, I draw it all by hand, and then I scan that into my computer.
It's really
I
well
color it.
done.
Thank you. I color it digitally, and then I put it on my website, and then after I have 24 of them, I have a full comic, I got it printed.
So people could access this as sort of an ongoing story on the internet?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a website, lifethen.com, and then I'm on all social media that I can think of, and I'm on a platform called Webtoon, another platform called Tapas, and I post these there. I'm on Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Tumblr, Facebook, all those places, and you can see it all there. But I mean, my website, lifethen.com, is probably the easiest place to get it. But yeah, so when I have a full story, I just print in a comic. 'Cause, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I love the colors. Like, they're really standing out for me.
I don't have a good eye for color.
I think you do, though.
Well, see, this is why how I'm overcompensating. I describe this as like a toxic assault on your eyes.
Yeah, but
Because I just wanted to be as
vibrant
gaudy as I can. Yeah, exactly. Because I don't like having an eye for color is like having like an ear for music. You either
Right.
get it and you don't, and I don't get it. So I use really basic rules, and then I just make it as toxic an environment as I can, and hope that that's like a style.
Well, it is.
It
I mean,
is,
it
yeah.
absolutely is a style, and I agree with Kelsey. I think it's incredibly vibrant. It really sort of pops off the page, and it does. Did you just sort of say is it like toxic?
Yeah.
It does sort of have that, and it also tell us a little bit about what the story is, because it looks almost kind of post-apocalyptic or.
Yeah, it's a science fiction story. So it's about a wandering mercenary. So it's like I call it a science fiction adventure story about a wandering mercenary. His name's Life. That's the titular character. And then each story is kind of like just his adventures through the stars, I guess, through space, and getting into trouble and getting out of trouble, I guess. And this particular one is about just like this kind of I like this gang of losers who are fighting this evil wizard here. There's an item, it's this thing they have to steal back from the wizard, and they run into Life, who I guess I'd say reluctantly helps them because they're kind of useless and they kind of need his help. And yeah, they just got to fight this gang of mutants, and there's just on this like awful backwater planet, this kind of terrible place, and yeah, there's a lot of violence and adventure.
Cool. Do you see any of your character traits from yourself into your comic books characters? Like any? Did you base any characters off of people you've met, or like?
It's kind of more like what I like to see in fiction.
Yeah.
So it's kind of stuff that I think is funny. He's really quiet. He's really apathetic. And he's really violent, and I don't shut up. I'm not violent, and I care more than I should about things. But it's the kind of story I'd want to see. It's the kind of comic that I would want to see. This is actually kind of a real throwback to 70s and 80s like European sci-fi comics. Actually, The Necropolis is kind of is inspired like that. I take that namesake from an old Judge Dredd comic. It's actually where I kind of got the idea for the coloring too, where they would do all this weird kind of acidy coloring. And it's like old heavy metal comics and old weird movies. And it's just kind of it's what I want to see. Like it is kind of retro, but the way I view it is not as trying to pretend that I'm in that time so much as looking at like that stuff still works. It's still good. Like nobody else really kind of does that anymore. I was like, yeah, well, why don't people still do that? Like I still want to do that.
Yeah.
I enjoy that, so I'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask actually in that regard, like what were some of your influences either as a writer or as an artist on this?
The biggest art influence is this creator named Mobius. He was a really prolific French comic artist. He did all these crazy science fiction comics in the 70s and 80s. And he worked on movies like Tron, Space Jam, the He-Man movie, The Fifth Element, like all these sorts of movies. Aliens, he designed the spacesuits in Alien.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he just... Like that's where all these little hatch marks come from on my comic. That's what he did. That was his trademark,
right?
Particularly at a certain time. And I really liked that. No one really does it anymore, so I wanted to do that. And then the other big one is this anthology comic called 2000 AD, and that's where Judge Dredd comes from. And so there was a Sylvester Stallone movie in the 90s. There was recently a Carl Urban movie,
yeah.
And it's just this kind of really like grim and sarcastic science fiction comic where everything is awful. And I just like that stuff. Right? It just makes me laugh.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of my two major influences on this thing.
Nice.
I wanted to touch back on when you were talking about how you made this comic book just because it's something that you want to see.
Yeah.
There's something true to that because it works with like filmmakers and musicians where like if you make a movie for other people to see versus for you to see, it kind of translates differently, right? Like you put more of yourself into this because it's just more authentic and, real to you. And that's kind of like a reoccurring theme that I've noticed is like artists and creators, like they make things for them first.
Yeah,
I think
there's like my theory was I like this, so maybe somebody else does too.
Yeah.
And then there's a famous music producer, Rick Rubin. He did work with Johnny Cash, Nine Inch Nails, the Beastie Boys, all those guys, right? And he talks about like don't think about what the audience wants, because it doesn't matter, because you're gonna make something bland and homogenous. And I'm not saying that this is groundbreaking, but it's what I want to do. It's what I want to invest my time. Like if I'm gonna invest all that time above and beyond my job, spending all those nights drawing this stuff, making this thing, I want to at least like it, So even if it doesn't make any money, if it doesn't go anywhere, I had a good time and it exists, and I'm happy enough with that, right?
Could you actually imagine how dreadful it would be if you made something intended for someone else that you really didn't like, hoping it would be successful, and then it got huge, and then you were stuck having to continue making something that you actually disliked? That'd be horrible.
I think that probably happens to like people that do
movies.
Yeah, like or have like a gimmick.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Like you see that with like YouTube streamers burning out because they have to do this gimmick, and it's the same gimmick again and again and again,
and then they become boxers after.
Yeah, there you go. Honestly, right?
Timely reference, Kelsey.
I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah. Not going to date this at all. Yeah. 10 years from now, people are like, huh? What's YouTube?
Go. Oh, I was going to say go Google, but maybe that's gone in 10 years too.
Know, right?
Go Schmorf.
Yeah.
Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. That's my prediction for the next search engine.
Smorf.
Schmorf.com.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're weird. Did you know that?
No, it's all right.
Okay.
You're at a comic store.
Yeah.
It's kind of nerds of a feather, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so speaking of that, obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but I would suspect that you've been connected to comics for maybe most of your life. You've been a reader, a bit of a fan.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not really a thing anymore. But when I was a kid, the grocery store had the big spinner rack, right? You know, and parents take you to the grocery store and then go read comics, And mine growing up was G.I. Joe. I played with the toys, watched the cartoons, and there was a comic, every month at the grocery store. So,
Yep.
And obviously things like Batman and Spider-Man, those are great, but that's the one I really connected to. And that just started this lifelong passion with comics. It's there's all these cliches about it's a medium unlike anything other, but it really is. You kind of just have to put the idea in the comic and draw it as best you can, and then it exists. Like to try to. That's why like a lot of superhero movies don't have costumes, because it doesn't translate to the real world, right? And it's also more visual than obviously a novel is. So there's this weird medium that just works for whatever weird reason, and it's I just love it. Like I said, I obviously like drawing, so that appeals to my personality. The visual part of it, right?
Have you always been an artist then as well, or?
I drew a lot when I was a kid, and I'm like a really good example of how school fails you.
Oh, okay.
Where all I wanted to do was draw G.I. Joe and superheroes and stuff, and people would come along, teachers, parents, come along and be like, that's really nice. But draw something, good, right? Draw something nice, right?
Aww.
And I gave up on drawing when I went to high school. Like, I couldn't wait to go to high school and take art class. I was like, they're going to teach me to do real art. I'm going to learn how to make comics. And by my midterm, or whatever it is, I can't remember what it's called anymore, I was actually failing.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, part of that is because the teacher literally lost some of my projects. My mom went and helped him find them. And there was also projects he assigned, and then I didn't do what he wanted. And my mom, who has like a background in art school, explained to him, like, no, like it was an assignment on something like contrast. And I did like literal visual contrast as opposed, he wanted literal visual contrast, and I did thematic contrast. And so my mom explained that to him, and he's just like, oh, I was like, this is the teacher. So I
you were almost a step ahead of the teacher from the sounds of it.
So I was failing this class, and it just completely ruined it for me. And I gave up drawing for 15 years,
Wow.
And I worked on other artistic projects, like I took musical theater, I worked on models and stuff like that. But it wasn't until I really just kind of realized how much I missed comics and wanted to create comics that I started getting back into it when I was 30.
Yeah.
Because I just gave up, and that is a long time to stop doing something. And you got to relearn and got to learn new things, and it's tough. When I was a kid, my mom had a friend whose son worked for Disney. He was an animator, and we went and met him at a coffee shop, and he told us all about working at Disney and me and my buddy Cody, and he wrote a little note for us that said, like, never stop drawing, and it was the best advice I got, and I immediately didn't do it. And I just I wish I could have gone back and just listened to that guy and be like, yeah, never stop drawing, because like you just stop honing that skill for 15 years.
Yeah.
Like that's a long time to not work on something.
A lot of people look at art as like not a real job.
I suppose.
Kind of.
Yeah.
And I felt that pressure too, because I'm not very good at many other things besides art.
Yeah.
And but I always put a lot of pressure on, like I was always focusing on the things that I wasn't good at, and later in life I'm like, why don't I just lean more into my art brain and really go for it? Like I was always trying to fit in to boxes that I just wasn't meant for, and it was, I don't know, it's just society kind of looks at art as like we love art, but sometimes it's hard to get paid for your art too. Yeah. And that's kind of why it's not taken as seriously.
Well, that's the struggle. Like I said, is doing this in my spare time, right?
Yeah.
Because like I got to pay the bills. I got a mortgage to pay, right? So, and this, I make some money on it, but not a lot.
Yeah.
So, finding that, I read an interview with a comic artist who said, he quit his job and went on essentially welfare, and then forced himself to pay his bills with his art. because that was the only way you could do it. It's like, yeah, I have to do this, otherwise I'll always find an excuse. I mean, and there's a quote, I can't remember who it is, but you're talking about like not leaning into it. They said if your kid is good at tennis and bad at math, don't hire them a math tutor, hire them a tennis coach.
Yeah,
That's
ooh,
actually
I like
really smart
that.
advice. Yeah,
And someone should go
but
to that
also a
to find
math
out,
tutor
yeah.
because they do need to pass math. But.
Yeah, but how much do you use trigonometry on a day-to-day basis?
No, that's fair. But they still have to graduate.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, take those art electives or those tennis electives.
But yeah, encourage your children or even like your friends in the things that they are good at and that they enjoy. We shouldn't all be necessarily sitting at desks and punching numbers into a thing, or some people probably should, but no.
Yeah, I mean, some people love that, some people enjoy that, but like I said, it's also not realistic to be a starving artist your whole life because I mean, like I'll give you a kind of a sad example here, like Marvel Comics and DC Comics, they don't pay very well, and
Really?
No, they do not. And most of all their artists come outside of North America where their dollar goes farther.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
What?
interesting. I wouldn't have necessarily guessed that.
So not only do you kind of have to eliminate that avenue, but if you're an independent comic publisher, it's extremely competitive market. And it's not all just Netflix option money for people, right?
Right.
So it's a really, and like a lot of small independent companies, they make more money per issue, but they have a smaller audience, right? Because there's inherent, I don't want to say bias towards the bigger publishers, right? So it's a tough market. So to sit there and look at that and say like, okay, like I'm going to go be a professional comic artist. It's extremely competitive and, not very rewarding in a lot of senses, right? So I guess it's kind of for a lot of people, it's a passion project, right? So you got to try to balance both. And if you don't have enough energy, I see why people give up.
Yeah.
Right. And take the safer job. Because like I said, my wife makes more money than me. Hi, sweetie. And that's great,
Good job.
And she loves her job and she really excels at it and she loves all that, and we're able to afford to do all these things, right? But that's not true for everybody, especially if you're not married, if you're not, if you're in debt or something like that.
Yeah.
You can't sit there and do all those passion projects, right? So I understand why some people it's only a hobby, and that's fine. You do something you love, right?
Yeah.
There's another quote like work to live, don't live to work kind of thing. Yeah, like those kind of cliches, right? Like, yeah, so I get it.
That's what we're doing right here. So yeah.
I'm here just for the money.
Pay them bills.
No, I'm not. No, I'm
Pay them
not.
bills.
I like to be silly. Oh, darn it. I forgot what I was going to say.
So how much
ahead.
time would you say lapsed between when you started drawing again, just to see, and when you thought, I'm going to try producing my own comic?
Well, a friend of mine, him and I started doing a little independent web comic for a while. And then he wanted, like I was writing it and he was drawing it. And I wanted to start drawing more and we wanted to kind of go in different directions. Then he started having kids. And then I started doing my own thing then. I was like, I'm gonna do my own thing now. Like I think I have enough of an itch to want to learn to draw again. And those, I'm better now than I was 10 years ago when I started doing this. And like you just got to get out and do it though, right? Like I was like, I know that I'm not that good, but like I knew that like doing more and more practice would I would get better at it to some degree. And then so I think I didn't really finally publish my first one, I think for 7 or 8 years of like just drawing it and putting it on the internet. I then took, I think a year 7.
Oh, so you were actually spending 7 years working on this kind of a story, or?
Yeah, like I said, I do 2 pages a month,
Yeah.
right? So I have a bunch of stories that didn't get published into comics. Because I thought,
really?
like,
Okay.
I need to get better at this. So I published my practice.
Okay.
So like I was putting comics out. I have to be accountable. I have to like put an effort into it. I have to like hit my deadlines for myself. And I have to try to get better. Otherwise, I'm just embarrassing myself.
Yeah.
And so I finally got to the point about 2 years ago where I thought I can publish this. I can sell this, and it sold really well. My first one sold really well. I sold out in about 6 months. And I said, okay, like I feel like I can do more of this. I can keep going. And so this is my second one. I printed another one, and I printed way more to try to force me to get out there and go to conventions and things like that. I got busy and I found a bunch of excuses not to do it. But like in the springtime, I want to do my third one, and I want to do a Kickstarter for that. I want to do a bigger project and get bigger and bigger and bigger, and that keeps you honest. Like that kind of putting that pressure on yourself keeps you honest, and makes you try harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one was 24 pages.
Yep.
The published one prior to that, was that also 24 or?
No, it was 16.
So smaller. Okay.
Yeah, it was smaller because you got to keep costs down.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I only printed 300.
Right.
And to sell them for $5 at 16 full color pages and the cover, you gotta hit a certain number there, right?
Yeah.
And so this one I had to print way more to be able to afford to sell it for $5 at 24 page count. But like the average comic is about 20 pages now.
Yeah.
And then the ad pages.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do 24 just because it physically works out that way, and it gives you enough room to do some kind of story as opposed to just feels like a short story, right? So yeah.
And so moving ahead to, a third volume, would be sticking with 24 pages, or would that be part of the growth, is to maybe expand into a larger, chunkier graphic novel kind of thing, or?
Yeah, the next one's going to be 24 pages as well, because that one's almost done.
Okay.
And then I thought about doing the next one to be 48 pages to make it, just bigger and have more of a bigger, more comprehensive story. The problem is, though, is that would take me 2 years to draw. And I don't want to be out of the game selling a new comic for 2 years.
Sure, makes sense.
And I had other plans to do something bigger and different, but it's not really working out that way. Like I just can't quit my job and do comics full time yet.
Yeah.
So I can't afford to do anything. Like people will wait a year. They wait 2 years. I don't know. Right?
So you said yet. So that is a goal.
That's the goal, right? I mean, I turned 40 this year, so.
Do you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I just
You
dress
look
like
young.
I dress like a teenage skid still, so.
That helps.
Yeah, anyways, also don't drink and smoke. That helps kids.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I'd still like to try to chase that dream, chase that goal, right? I think I can do it. I mean, there's a lot of really prominent comic creators who started later in life, in 40.
Oh yeah, there's no problem. Yeah, nothing wrong with
So
that.
I still feel like I can hit that goal before, my body starts failing me,
Yeah.
because, eyes and hands and things like that go, especially on artists, right? So your back, those things, right? So
Well, yeah, sometimes we're just too busy partying in our early 20s. We don't. Now you're done.
Yeah.
And now you're ready to crush some goals.
there you go, right? Yeah. But yeah, I think, I didn't know that I really wanted to try this till I was older too, right? Like I said, me and my buddy started making them when I was about 30,
Really?
my buddy Phil and I, that's when we started doing our own, because you just don't get around to it. You just find, you find excuses. You have other things to occupy your time. And then as I got older, I was like, okay, I've tried all these things. This is what I want to do.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm glad you stuck with it.
Yeah.
What's the most? Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, the thing about art too is that it's frequently a very isolated practice. Like it's not something you do with a bunch of other people. Like you are kind of, whether you're writing, whether you're drawing, you're sort of by yourself and piece of paper in front of you. So you do have to sacrifice certain things like socialization, like being able to hang out with people and things like that.
Yeah, and that kind of helps that I'm a real big anti-socialite. So, I come to work, I work in retail, so I put my dancing shoes on for everybody. I use all my social battery at my work, and I go home and I just want to lock myself away.
And maybe draw some comics.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, and I'm a night owl too, so I like drawing late at night. I literally have a note on my desk that says don't draw during the day because it doesn't work out,
You're more creative at night, hey?
Absolutely, yeah.
Interesting.
I think this is just me personally saying that. I think your brain just starts to get turned to mush at night, and things just kind of flow better, right?
Oh.
Whereas during the day, I'm a little too more analytical, and that's just me personally. I don't know if that's true for everybody.
Interesting.
So at night,
That is interesting. What would you say is your peak artistic time?
2 a.m.
Oh man.
Yeah, I wish I could stay up that late still though, but
Yeah.
That's when it gets good, man, because you're kind of half tired, half awake, and just put some nice relaxing music on, like Pink Floyd is always my favorite to do, and just like I said, my brain just kind of turns to mush.
Because I feel like for myself, I start to sort of want to get creative around between 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Guys.
What?
Man, you're partying so hard.
No, that's just when my brain is ready. Yeah. But then I can't because I have to work the next day, and I'm like, well, I got to get enough sleep because I'm not 20-something anymore, and I can't get by on 5 hours of sleep.
Well, my creative time
when is it?
Really early in the morning. Oh, I guess it's about the same thing, but I'm
there you go.
But you just woke up.
But I'm waking up.
Yeah.
You've got it figured out.
I go
You're
to
doing
bed
it properly.
really early, and then I wake up before the.
Yeah.
I hate alarm clocks. I think alarm clocks are a crime against nature.
Totally, they are.
So I like being awake at night.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. Wow, we're all so strange.
Yeah.
And creative.
different, I guess.
Yeah,
Right?
and that's another reason why I like that you made this book for yourself, because we all have such unique brains, and it's good to get insight on your brain and your what's going on in your art world.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? It's I don't begrudge anyone that works in the system. Like if you go work for Disney or Marvel and you just do what you say, some people like that. They want that instruction. They want to create that way. I don't. I want to express myself in a sense, like we were talking about. Right?
Yeah.
And I want to do it my way. I don't want to have to argue with somebody about like, no, I think that should go that way. And there's limitations. I'm not that good at a lot of things. I'm not very good at much, but it's at the end of the day, it's what I wanted to the best of my abilities. Like I tell people, like it's not the best comic, but it's the best I can do. And that feels good. That feels really rewarding. And there's really prominent comic creators. Like there's this one guy named Brian K. Vaughan, and he created a comic called Why the Last Man. And he told people that in an interview that he loves coming up with ideas and he loves the finished product, but he hates everything in between. And that's exactly how I feel about it. I love creating the ideas. I love seeing the finished product, but the labor of it all, I hate. And so it's neat to go, oh, okay, I can relate to that guy who's successful, so maybe I'm not a weird mutant in that regard.
Are you just critiquing yourself so hard? Is that kind of why you don't like the middle part of it?
Yeah, a little bit of that, and also just like I guess it really is that, yeah, because when you're doing it and it becomes final, you're committing to it, and
right.
If it's terrible, that's your fault, right? So that can be really intimidating. Like I was working on a page a couple weeks ago, and I would work for half an hour, and it would take me about an hour of break to work up the confidence to do it again. Because I was just so scared of it. Like I was doing things I wasn't normally doing. It was bigger than normal. And I was like, man, like all my mistakes are going to show, and I don't know that I'm doing the right thing here. And it just ripped me apart. But I got it done, and then I was like, that's one of the best things I've ever drawn.
But it's important to take those breaks.
Yeah, for me.
Yeah.
Other comic creators, one of their abilities, one of their skills, their talents, is that they can just keep working. And they're not necessarily fast, they just don't need breaks. Whereas I need breaks. I get exhausted. And I just tear yourself apart. And I have a friend in town here, and that's what he can do. He can just keep working and working and working. And that's a special skill that some people have and some people don't. But it's nothing you really do to train that, I don't think. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, if anything, it's just practice. If you just are consistent enough with it, you'll eventually be more comfortable being consistent with it. I don't know.
I mean, as a writer, you could probably relate, right? You'd probably need breaks from your
Well, I mean, yeah, because there's just times that the words aren't coming, or you don't know what the next paragraph is, or which actually leads me to wondering, like, you've talked about having the next sort of volume in progress. Like, how far ahead, like how many stories do you kind of have percolating, ready to go into the future?
Well, I used to do like 1 or 2 page stories, and then so I would have a notepad filled with ideas because it's only 1 or 2 pages, and then I could usually come up with an idea, like a quick gag, pretty quickly. When I'm doing these long form ones, like this one, I had ideas written for this, probably 8 years ago, and I had it in a notepad, and I had character sketches, and I just these little ideas that I'd thrown in a bunch of different notepads, and I realized that they all kind of connected, and then I could borrow this idea and this one and that one. The next story I'm doing, that I haven't even started working on, I only got the idea for that like a month ago, and I only have about 3 or 4 ideas in my head.
Right.
But
So it's still kind of evolving.
but I'm going to start that comic in about 3 months.
Right.
Like I'm going to have to start putting pen to paper in 3 months, and see what happens.
Yeah.
Right. But that's also sometimes some ideas you want to be flexible on, some ideas you don't. Like with that idea, I had no idea. Like I almost thought about maybe after my next one, maybe I'd stop because I just had no idea. And then I read a comic, like somebody else's comic. It inspired me a couple different ways, and I thought this is the avenue I'm going to go on. This is the stuff. This is the style I want to do now. And just like that, like this whole door opened up, and this whole world of what I want to do for my next story opened up, and it's all floating in my head. And these little emotions and these lines and these scenes are floating in there. I just got to start writing them down, hammering them down, and build like a structure for it. But it's there, and I'll figure it out. If I don't, whatever.
So even when you're putting together what's going to end up being like a longer form 24-page comic, you're still essentially creating, like, drawing and writing 2 pages a month.
Yeah. So like the next one I'm going to publish, I have 3 pages left.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the story I was just talking about, that's the one I'm going to start producing after that.
Right. Okay.
So I have the one I'm currently drawing, I have it pretty much all finalized. I'd say it's probably like 95% finalized. I still do tweaks as I get to the page, just in case I have some challenges with the layout. But I have, like, this page, this happens, this page, this happens, this is the final page. And then dialogue will change, maybe a scene or two will change, maybe a panel from here will end up here, maybe this panel will get pulled out. That'll change. But I'm also building the next story that I have to start when that 3 pages is done. See where that goes.
Yeah. But you are, because I was wondering whether or not, because I think with most comics, especially ones where you have like one writer and one artist, you have them, the writer sort of writes the comic, sends it to the artist, and the artist draws it. And so, like, they're both in a position to have sort of the entire story before it's done. So, like, the writer goes, oh, this is how I'm ending it. Now I can go back earlier and tweak this thing from the beginning. Like, does that ever something you struggle with? Like, you get to the end, you're like, oh, I kind of wish I had done something different at the beginning now that I'm here?
Yeah, and that does happen to some degree where I go, oh, I wanted to explore this, but it just didn't work its way out in the process. And other times, like I said, it's really regimented where I have everything done, every note. But sometimes, like, no, I want to explore this idea more. And sometimes it's frustrating, but I don't really think so because, like I said, it's never really done until it's actually done.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, whatever, just give myself some grace because, the best laid plans are mice and men, right? Like, just like, no, I don't like this anymore. Like, I liked it 6 months ago when I wrote it, but I don't like it anymore. Or you notice a plot hole. I've done that too. I was like, oh, I didn't hammer this note hard enough. Like, this emotion I want over here, I did not hammer hard enough here, so I got to put more of it here.
Yeah.
That happens too.
But you're able to, you give yourself room to go back and fix that, or no?
Once the page is done and I put it on the internet, it's done.
Sure.
And I'm not going to retweak it. I'm not going to do the Star Wars thing and just, start adding things. The next comic I'm going to print, the only thing I'm going to change is the placement of one word bubble and the color of one tongue. And that's it. Everything else, it's done. It's done.
And the word bubble, the word stays the same. It's just placement, or?
Yes. The reason why I have to move it is because when I do the pages, I have, like, when I put it on the internet, I have a little to be continued at the bottom. But when I print it, I obviously take those out. And then because of that to be continued, there's a word bubble that's covering some art that I don't like. And I want to slide it back down so I can uncover that art. And then I colored the tongue the wrong color one time, and it looks like it's covered in toothpaste or something like that.
Do you lose sleep over details like that?
It drives me nuts every time I look at it. Yeah. I mean, that's that's your kind of your creator privilege, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But like I said, I don't want to do the Star Wars thing where I'm constantly tweaking it every time. Like, once it's done, it's done. Like, let it go out in the world, because you will find every reason to go back and make it better and make it better, and then you never move forward. You're just always going back. So screw it. Just, it's done. Let it go. But I can change a tongue in a word bubble.
Right. That's fair.
Yeah.
Are there any other stories what? Kelsey's watching me invent a question.
I had something ready to say.
Well, one thing I was curious about, I don't know if we've naturally gotten to this part of it, but one thing I'm curious about, talking about, the people who want to go and play in, like, Marvel or DC toy boxes, if that was an opportunity that you had, like, what is one character that you would just really, really love to work on?
See, like, my favorite character is Colossus from the X-Men. Like, that's like, I'm 4 years old and I saw that and it just blew my mind. I don't know that I want to write that character, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't, you shouldn't really write things you're fans of, because then you're afraid to do anything to them. The kind of story I would want to do is I would almost want to go back and find the stuff that I loved when I was a kid and try to do something like that, but somehow, like, modernize it. Like, recapture that. Like, that's kind of what I'm doing with this, is trying to recapture, a feeling I had when I was younger, and see if you can just translate it into something a little bit more modern and play around with that. And I don't know that would really fit in with what they're doing currently, but to do like a mini series where this is what it is, it just exists on its own, I'd love to do something like that.
Yeah.
And maybe some X-Men characters, maybe like the Fantastic Four, something like that. Just have fun with that. But it probably wouldn't be the established.
It wouldn't fit in, like, established continuity kind of thing.
Because then you can't. You have certain rules and regulations you have to follow, and certain things you can and cannot do.
Absolutely.
I met a comic creator who worked for Marvel and DC at a comic convention one time, and he told me that Batman and Superman have separate committees where everything you do on Batman and Superman has to go through these lawyers, basically. And this is how the franchise works. and you can get shut down for a million different reasons. So like, doing something kind of outside of that norm with one of those characters, I think would be a little bit more fun. We don't have to worry about those kind of pitfalls.
Yeah, no, exactly. And yeah, when it comes to characters like Batman and Superman, those are like essentially billion-dollar properties that you can't just, you can't have Superman punching a
puppy,
right? Like,
exactly,
there's things you can and can't do, and there's the reason that those things are there. But yeah, it absolutely stifle creativity.
Yeah. So I mean, don't get me wrong though, like to say that I would never do that. No, that's ridiculous. Like it'd be fun. It'd be a lot of fun, I love to do like all those things because I still love comics. I still love all those things. I mean, it sucks they don't pay better, but I still love them,
especially when they're billion-dollar properties.
I love that stuff.
What's up with that?
Yeah. So yeah, of course it'd be fun.
What about as far as your art goes? Is there any sort of direction you'd like to sort of play around with that you haven't yet? Any direction you'd like to try growing in?
Well, I'm not really good at imitating things for my art. Like I try, and it kind of ends up like if I could tell you like 4 or 5 different artists that I borrow style from.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really look like them, and it's because that's how my brain processes it. Right? I'm not very good at that, and I'm still kind of chasing that like those books that I love, and I want it to look more like this. But the more I try, the more it kind of ends up in its own direction. And I'm kind of like, yeah, okay, I like that. I don't mind that. Like I have these old Ninja Turtle comics, from like the Archie ones from when I was a kid. And just the way they do the action, like I've been trying to like kind of more ape that a little bit because my drawings are very wooden, very rigid. And so I'm trying to do a little bit more like that. But I don't want it to look like his stuff. I just kind of want it to be a little bit more fluid, but also still maintaining that kind of rigid European style because the European stuff is not nearly as like bombastic as the North American stuff was. So, I just want to kind of like liven my stuff up a little bit, but at the same time not betray the source. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
You have a unique style. I'll say that.
It's weird.
No, but I like it.
Well, thanks.
It's unique in a really good way.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I think is interesting as a comic book fan myself is watching artists evolve. And like for example, one of my favorite artists is Bill. I think it's Sinkovich. And like looking at some of his early work, which was very inspired by, I think, like Neil Adams.
Yes.
Compared to kind of what he's evolved into, completely different.
Well, yeah, I think Bill was a student of Neil's.
Yeah.
And that was the established sort of house style at the time.
Right, yeah.
But then Bill started becoming so successful on his own, he could do whatever he wanted. And like, it's the weirdest stuff on the planet. Like it's kind of unlike anything else. And that was in the 80s.
Yeah.
And that's awesome that he was able to kind of build such a name for himself that he started dictating his terms to them and did whatever he wanted. And it's weird and it's over the top and it's very well
It's
remembered.
beautiful. I love it.
It's amazing stuff, And he kind of just does his own thing now. He does whatever he wants because he's so successful.
But it is interesting to see when an artist is clearly like they're either drawing inspiration from or in some cases trying to copy, and seeing. I can't think of. I know there's other artists I've seen who've in their really really early stuff. You can see that they're not ripping off necessarily, but inspired by or drawing inspiration from.
It work.
But then you get to see where they take that and how they put their own sort of spin on it, and it does sound like that's sort of what you're talking about when you end up trying to pursue artists that you appreciate and you try to sort of maybe copy them or do something more like them, but it still ends up veering off in its own direction that's more just like you.
Like I'm trying to like there's a difference between copying something and being inspired by something, right? And like I said, the way my brain works, I can't really copy it. But it really inspires me, so I try to figure it out the best I can, and I'm not very good at that. But what comes out in the end is something that I like. So I was like, okay, cool, I'm good with that, right? And so, and just like I said, seeing where it goes, doing more reps, doing more work, and just growing and changing all the time, like in this comic, the final battle is a bunch of these small panels, and I didn't like that. I wanted to have a big, huge panel. So on the one I'm working on right now, the final battle is like just this one big, giant panel.
Oh wow!
Because I wanted to try that, and that's what I was telling you the story earlier about how I had to take an hour-long break between working on it, and that's why it was so outside of my norm, it was so outside of my comfort level that it was ruining me. But now that I've done that and grown, I want to do that again. I want to do that another time because I was I have this tool in my toolbox now, and so that's part of the process of growing, right, and changing.
Are there any other mediums, any other storytelling mediums that you would be interested in trying your hand at, like maybe filmmaking, which is another very visual sort of medium?
Well, the inspiration for this was a lot of was just comics. It was those old kind of weird adult animated movies from 70s, 80s, like Wizards, the old Lord of the Rings cartoon, stuff like that. And I'd love to see it done as like a hand drawn cartoon, but I just don't think that's ever. Like, I don't even know if they even do hand-drawn cartoons anymore like that.
Fair enough.
But
So
you don't know. Maybe there's like apps that can help you make it happen. You know?
Maybe there's the market for that, right? You know, like, but
Maybe it's time to teach yourself how to do it.
yeah, Netflix isn't returning my calls for some reason. You know? Come on.
I thought it would be kind of neat to make your own action figure because now there's 3D printers. You can do
That's
it.
a good point, actually. Yeah.
I know it's a good point. That's why I said it.
I'd love to do that, but like what I find too was like jumping from medium to medium is that my brain dials into that medium, and then when I go back to a different medium, I have to almost kind of restart again for a while.
It's hard to switch gears.
Yeah, so like I paint models, and then so I'll paint for like a week, and then when I go to like paint or to color my comics, I have to retrain my thoughts about where the shading and the highlights go because, and I struggle with that. Some people can just back and forth really easy, but for me it's tough, you know, to do those. And so the idea of like, oh, I'm going to learn the hobby of 3D printing and 3D modeling and stuff. Because I don't got enough time for that.
Yeah.
I'd love to do it, but yeah.
I don't know how hard it is. I thought you just pick a picture and then it just goes. I have no idea.
I suppose, yeah.
I think you need more than a picture for it to be 3D, because a picture is just 2D, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's stuff that can help you build it, but, you know, it's a whole other process, right?
What's that evil dog from Ghostbusters? Because I got the dog in Ghostbusters.
Oh, is it?
I got him 3D printed.
Did you?
Slimer?
No,
No.
like the weird dog thing.
Gorzo or something like
from the
that.
first movie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about, like the demon dogs, yeah.
A demon dog. And I just went on Google and like Googled Ghostbusters dog
Yeah.
thing. And then, you know, this is a few
wow.
years back. And then I got a little like,
Yeah, I had no idea, yeah. I'm not
Just saying.
familiar with that.
I'm just saying, that's
Yeah,
all
there's
I did.
definitely places where you can download 3D printable things from, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, like the files, yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. So I haven't jumped into that world, so I'm not sure yet. You
Same.
have to make a toy
Maybe
for me now, yeah.
Maybe. I wonder if there are 3D printers in Kamloops, aren't there?
Yeah,
yeah,
Makerspace
yeah.
has them.
Makerspace, yeah.
A bunch of my friends have a bunch of them, and they go crazy with it. So,
Oh yeah. See, anything's
go.
possible.
Yeah.
Anything's possible.
Yeah. We're working
How are
on
we
it.
doing for time, Kelsey?
Well,
Should we check?
None of us is wearing a watch.
do you want to
No.
guess how much time we have?
I'm going to guess 20 minutes left.
What about you, sir?
For an hour? I'll say 10.
You say 10?
Yeah.
I'll say, well,
You'll say after you looked at
I'll
it?
say 13.
Is that what it is? Is it 13?
Wait, I can't do math. We have, it's 42. We're at 42
Price is-
minutes.
Price is Right rules.
42 minutes.
That's 18.
Oh,
Price is Right
I
rules.
told you I can't do math, but I even cheated and I couldn't guess properly.
Price is Right rules. That means I went over.
We have about 18 minutes left. Not time to say hello to your mom or dad or anything yet.
Oh, they're not gonna
Or your
watch
wife.
it.
Oh,
My wife might. Yeah.
what's your
My
wife's
sister.
name?
My wife's name is Allison.
Allison. Allison, I hear you help out your husband quite a bit with all the support you offer. So that's pretty cool.
She does, yeah.
Yeah.
The biggest fan.
Yeah. Is she into the same sort of things as you?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually met her here at the store. Like, she was a customer, and then
Aw.
we just hit it off. Yeah.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Yeah, so we have a lot in common, which was great.
Is there some of Allison's input in this comic?
Or
is it all you?
It's dedicated to her. Like the note says to my loving wife Allison.
That's cute.
But I don't know. Like she's into different kind of stuff than I am. So for like this kind of fiction. So
Oh, I see.
yeah, it's probably like selfishly all my stuff. You know.
It's cool that you're in the same. You have the same interests, but still, like even then, it's different.
Yeah, absolutely, right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different things in the store physically right now. Never mind, you know, like comics are like TV. You know, they're like music. Like everyone's
Yeah.
different.
Oh, yeah. So many
audiences,
different channels, so many different,
different stories, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
and there's some things that we do absolutely like some titles that we absolutely do like together, and other things, just different.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Cute.
So what are you reading off the shelf these days?
I'm actually kind of what I was talking about earlier. I was like, I'm really trying to reconnect with like
Bit of older titles?
Yeah,
or-
my childhood comics. So like during the pandemic, because everyone was bored, I think a lot of people went through their closets and their attics and their basements and garages and got all their old collectibles out. And, you know, and so I started buying old back issues again. finishing old comic series from when I was a kid. Wow. So I'm reading a lot of old stuff. And then the new stuff I'm reading is like stuff based on the old stuff. Like, so the new Transformers series, the new Ninja Turtles, the new Conan stuff. So those. And then, just a bunch of like weirdo sci-fi stuff, right? So
We were about to get some judgment on, was it Conan?
I highly dislike the new Ninja Turtles design.
this one's a little different, though. This is the comic, and so they're not using those designs. They're kind of more faithful to the original designs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not mad anymore then.
Yeah.
But I've been seeing like
Wow, crisis averted.
Yeah.
well, yeah,
It's
like
called
they just,
gatekeeping.
they've been changing. I don't know. They just look not normal.
Yeah, they got to update it for every audience, though, I think.
Yeah.
Because there's new 5-year-olds that don't think it's like the designs from when we were kids are cool, right? Like, yeah, that looks old. That looks weird, you know?
And that offends me greatly.
Yeah, well, kids are stupid, so.
I've had to argue with my child about gatekeeping because she's a huge fan of Scott Pilgrim.
Okay.
And but then she's encountering people at school who have like maybe only encountered Scott Pilgrim via the movie, or even worse, via the recent anime that veered way off the story. And she's like, "Well, if all you've seen is the anime, then you're not a real Scott Pilgrim fan."
Yeah, but think about that in terms of Batman, right? So think about like the Michael Keaton movie. Think about all the people that hated it because it wasn't Adam West. Mm-hmm. You know, and think about people who hated the Adam West stuff because it wasn't the stuff from the 40s, right? So it's going to have to change and grow. But as long as the sort of core fundamentals are there, I think it always finds a new audience.
Yeah, no, and I agree, and I think that's good. And I my issue is with the gatekeeping. This whole saying like, "Oh, if it's not X, then it's not my thing."
Yeah, that's insanity.
Yeah, but my kid's 13.
Yeah, exactly.
My kid's 13. They'll figure it out eventually.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you grow out of that eventually, right? Well, most people do. So yeah, because you realize, just it's like food, right? It's like I'm the one eating it, so I don't care if you don't like avocados. I do, or something, right? So who cares?
And if what she likes is the original graphic novel, then go back and read it again. Don't tell somebody else they're not a fan.
If that's all you want to do, yeah, it's okay. But making someone else like it so you can like it even more is no thanks. I used to say all the time, like, no one ever comes to the comic store to be cool, right? So that's what I like about comics, is that there's not a lot of that clout chasing and trying to show off. It just is what it is, right? And that actually kind of bothers me from when the industry does do that, where they try to get not mainstream acceptance, but like mainstream praise. Like, how come our comics don't qualify for this award? Who cares? Who cares what somebody else thinks? If Hollywood doesn't want to give you those awards, or
they're rigged in anyway.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that?
I mean,
I don't know. Just saying. Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't care. Like, I'm not worried about that. Like, enjoy it because you enjoy it, right? Especially reading. Like, usually you do that by yourself.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're like worried about how someone else feels about it, nuts to that. Yeah.
Totally. Nope, I had a question, then I forgot it. Your turn, Kelsey.
What's your favorite color? Sorry, I had to think of one off the spot.
I used to always say green because that was the color of the Army when I was a kid, and I loved G.I. Joes.
Oh, Army green.
It's probably blue, though, to be honest. Yeah.
You can meet halfway in the middle. It's greeny blue.
That's teal. Nobody likes teal.
Oh, some people like
Somebody
teal.
likes teal.
I think my sister does, actually.
There you go.
Sorry, sister.
Yeah.
Teal. There's nothing wrong with teal.
There is nothing wrong with teal. It's
Not-
a fine
Maybe
color.
head to
pretty sure
toe
this is-
tracksuit teal.
It's kind of bluey teal, so whatever, right? So
Yeah.
who knows?
Cool. Did you think of your question suddenly? Or?
No, I was too busy listening to yours.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite number? I'm kidding. Oh.
Oh, that's a good answer.
Yeah, because when I was a kid, my favorite number was always my birth year, or not my birthday, my birthday. Excuse me.
You were born on year 6.
yeah.
You're old.
And so when I got this, like 5 was my favorite number. Then when I got to 6, I was like, nuts to this. I'm done.
You're just going to land on that one.
I-
6 is
I-
now
I-
your favorite forever.
I got lazy and I stuck with 6. So,
That's funny. Huh. Yeah, you knew that right away. You were like waiting for me to ask that.
Yeah, that
almost.
was
Like,
so
I-
immediate.
Those are day one date questions. You know what I mean? I've used those a million times, right? So, what's your middle name?
What's your favorite?
Yeah. So I got those ones. Yeah.
That's funny. Are we allowed to like look at the store or no?
No.
This thing is filled with copyright issues for
But can-
Copyright
TELUS.
infringement ever.
Yeah.
Can we discuss the
I
things
was
that are
actually
in
going to
the
ask when we were
store?
talking about like nobody comes to the comic shop to be cool.
Yeah.
That there is like the way that Marvel has sort of taken over the public entertainment in such a large capacity with the MCU. Has that sort of changed the people who are drawn to comics, in your opinion, or in your experience?
Yeah, in a good way and in a very few bad ways.
Yeah.
You know, Marvel got all those, like Marvel Comics got all the movie rights back for those characters because nobody wanted to make them.
Yeah.
Marvel was not doing a good job of making comics at that time.
Yeah.
And those movies, like, that was a time when like anime and manga was really taking over, and comics were hurting. They were making comics kind of exclusively for a small group of niche adult fans, and they were really alienating kids. And Marvel started succeeding as a comic property again because of those movies. So despite what they were doing, to the contrary, they became successful. And that, you know, I love seeing that again. I love seeing kids enjoying comics, and a lot of it is, you know, adults around my age bringing their kids in and reintroducing them to comics. You know, because you can't buy them at the grocery store. But I love seeing that. And if all they know is the movies, and they kind of have their information a little bit wrong because it's clearly educated by the movies, I don't care. Mm-hmm. You know, like, they love these characters. They're fun. Spider-Man is not the same Spider-Man was 60 years ago. They changed all the time. So if this
Or 20, or 10, or...
So if this version's this version, and that's how they got there, who cares? Like I said, don't gatekeep it or be precious of it. You know, yeah. So I love seeing all these young fans kind of come in, and older fans rediscovering it. You know, like, I used to love like X-Men as a kid, and I saw these movies, and you know, it brings it back in. That's awesome. So all that stuff has been so positive for the industry. And like I said, the only I don't even know if I want to say it's a negative. Like, sometimes it just doesn't translate. Like, you know, Black Panther's a great example. You know, Black Panther made a ton of money, and the Black Panther comic sales still never really went up. You know, they're still kind of it's kind of still really like a background character. So you have this disconnect where they're not connecting that movie audience with the comic audience. And so I guess that's a negative, but who cares? They enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
Right?
And there's only so much you can do to try to force that connection. The you know, if the movie was successful, the comic was successful, either the people are going to be drawn to it or they're not.
Yeah, and you can't take that as granted that just because they liked the movie, they're going to like the comic. They may not like comics. They may not see it that way. They may not enjoy comics that way, because everyone perceives things differently, right? And so maybe they just don't enjoy comics. You know, that's fine. That's fine. That's all right. Go nuts.
You look like you had a
I
thing a second
did.
ago.
I don't know if I want to. Okay,
Spit it
sure.
out.
I'm just wondering, like, what are the basics to having a really interesting comic book? Like, what makes a good comic book good?
I think, for me, it's 50-50 between a good story and good art. You know, if I don't like the art, I'm probably not going to read it. I might try it if it's a really good story. But at the same time, too, like, really good art and a garbage story, you're just like, come on, man. Like, this is just pretty. It's not interesting, though.
Oh, yeah. Have you tried to watch a movie with bad sound or anything?
Exactly,
you know, like,
right? Yeah,
like,
it's the same thing.
I can't.
Yeah, so you got to have interesting stories. You got to have interesting characters. And, you know, you have interesting designs, you know. I mean, you can't just put a guy in his underwear and, you know, give him a visor and a space sword and call it a day, right? Like,
Captain Underpants might disagree.
There you go. I've never heard that, but I know what it is.
Wait, what?
But
Captain Underpants.
yeah, it's like a kid's book, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, a little bit.
We covered it on my Banned Things podcast because that's been banned in schools.
Oh, thanks.
It promotes like a misbehavior because this kid basically goes nuts sometimes and doesn't listen to the principal.
Okay, whatever. Kids are never gonna misbehave ever.
I encourage my kid to misbehave. That's the parent I am.
Question authority, kids.
Question authority.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, when I was a kid, my principal told me that I was drawing wrong because I was holding the pencil wrong. And I was like, why? Because this is how it's done. I was like, whatever, get lost, man.
Principals are the worst.
Yeah.
Except for the good ones. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, but anyways, what were we talking about again? You had a question.
I don't remember. It's
unimportant.
What makes a good comic?
Oh yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. So you got to have all those good visual components, and you know, you can't just draw whatever. You know, you can take a really good technical artist, but they don't have a good imagination for design, and then it just doesn't work. You know, or you have someone who's really designed, but they just can't illustrate well. They can't show the characters doing things. You know, and that doesn't work. You know, it's a lot of these weird elements that have to come together with comics, where you have to have compelling characters, an interesting storyline, good design, good illustrations, and hopefully it all works, right? But I mean, it's hard to do sometimes. You know, hey, be good at this. You know, it's easier said than done, right?
Yeah, for sure. If it was that easy, everyone would be doing it.
Honestly, right? So, yeah. Your turn.
My favorite color is green of
You're
many
just
shades.
Copying my answers.
No, but it is my
What's your
answer.
favorite number?
44.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Why?
I don't know, but every time I get gas, I always put 44 in it.
Interesting.
What's wrong with me?
Nothing.
I think
probably
it's like
many things actually. But
well, yeah.
I don't.
That's a different episode.
That's a very different. Yeah, for sure. I don't know that I have a favorite number. Not that anyone asked me yet. But
Okay, what's your favorite number?
I
What's your
don't
favorite
know
number,
that
Todd?
I don't know that I
Pick
have
one now.
Yeah.
I don't. 13.
Okay,
Oh,
that's cool. Do you have a tattoo of 13?
No, I don't. I don't.
What's that? They drew me, or I wanted a 13, but they drew with 31.
Oh, no.
What's that from?
Let's not.
Is that a reference? What?
That's a Offspring song, right?
It is.
Oh.
I was in high school when that came out. Ugh.
I like that song. It was
Oh,
not
that's okay.
bad.
It's probably a fine song. I like The Offspring.
You're allowed to listen to it.
Pretty fly.
We're not gatekeeping in here.
No. Yeah.
We're in fact we are vehemently opposed to gatekeeping. So.
But wait, one more question. What is your favorite color, Todd?
I think it's purple,
Really?
but also maybe orange.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
which might surprise you.
Because
Which
you
it looked
never
like
wear
it
any
did.
of those.
Well, I wear orange.
But,
I have an orange sweater. I have one orange sweater. I'm not wearing it. You are correct.
Yeah.
Generic
Yeah.
otherwise.
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're pretty bold with the red.
I am.
so-
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, tis the season to shop for me.
But just because something's your favorite color doesn't necessarily mean that you have it in your closet.
Yeah, I don't like most of my shirts are black and white just because they go with things. Because like I said, I don't have a good eye for color. Right, black pants, dark shoes, black and white punk rock T-shirt, and generic flannel.
Yeah.
And a black and white hat because I understand black and white. Everything else is tough.
You could maybe dress a little bit more like your characters. A little bit more vibrant.
Ah, yeah.
Well, maybe that's like me like expressing the part that I don't get out in the real life,
maybe,
right?
maybe if you were wearing
your
those
alter ego.
colors,
Yeah,
you
there you
wouldn't
go.
be so motivated to draw them.
Well, he used to have a shaved head because I didn't want to draw hair. And then when I started shaving my head again, I was like, he needs hair because otherwise we're going to think I'm drawing myself. And I was like, that's obnoxious. So.
Because you're going to have a bunch of fans like, oh my God, it's him!
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to wear a disguise. I get it.
I want to do that whole draw your own thing, right? So draw
What?
yourself.
So, what digital tools do you use in your coloring?
Like I said, I draw it all by hand on paper like a caveman. And then I just use
Like
Photoshop.
with rocks.
Well,
caveman?
I mean, I use lead, so I guess technically that counts.
Okay.
Ooh, well done.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I just use Photoshop to color it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I have like a digital stylus tablet thing there that I use that. But even that's apparently old. I think you're supposed to like draw on the screen now. And, so I use a mouse for most of it because that's just easier for me.
Wow, that seems really like I'm not say non-intuitive, but I feel like I would. I mean, I'm not an artist, but like I would struggle
Yes,
trying
you
to.
are. You
well,
painted a banana.
There you
I
go.
painted a banana. Yeah, I made a new comic strip yesterday.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's not about you, Todd.
Should have brought it. Take over.
Today's not about you.
He's plugging his stuff. Get him.
Is this the Todd show? Hi,
I'm
Todd.
sorry, I'm sorry,
Hey,
I'm
Todd.
sorry.
What
I'm
did
sorry.
you?
I tried to share something from my life, Kelsey.
Todd, what did you do yesterday? Hello. What did you do? I'm kidding.
What is your comic strip?
Let's hear about it.
What's Tell us. Share your passion.
I'm sorry.
It's so dumb. It's called Stick Figure Drama. I started doing it like 15 years ago in a newspaper, and then they told me to stop doing it after like 5 years, though.
How offensive was it?
Huh?
How offensive was it?
It was
Medium?
medium. It wasn't very offensive because it was in a newspaper, and I only made a couple of moderately offensive jokes that we did get some bad mail about. But one of the reasons I may be resurrecting it is because I realized that I could now actually be offended because it's not in a newspaper. I'm just publishing it myself on the internet, and so
Well, have fun getting canceled. I'm sure the mob will come through.
I'm fine with cancellation attempts.
Cancellation's not real anyway. So yeah. I mean, Joe Rogan didn't get canceled.
Oh, he's got too many subscribers to
That's
ever
my
be
point, yeah,
canceled.
it's
Yeah,
not real, so.
I mean, you can be canceled, pretty much cancel not cancel free, but cancel proof.
Yeah, I just don't think it's really like, yeah, because it doesn't last, right?
No.
Which is fine. I mean, whatever, right? It's a weird phase we're going through as a society as we break down modern politics for the audience.
Anyway, the reason I was brought up a comic is because there is a point in time where my characters in my comic strip got eaten by a computer, and then they were inside of the computer for a while. And so what I did to draw them while they were in the computer is I drew them with a mouse so that I could make this weird little pixely digital versions of them. I also had a character who is called Lefty that I drew with my left hand to make him look kind of wobbly and weird.
That's actually really smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have seconds left.
Seconds left.
Seconds left, and I'm only just beginning to talk about my great comic work.
This is the interesting part. Like, so I use the mouse for this reason. Yeah, I'm just stubborn. I don't want to like learn new things.
That's
so
valid.
The mouse works, right? Like when I'm coloring, I have the stylus in my hand, and I'm using the mouse and just kind of go do back and forth.
Is it a process where like you click and it fills, or is it like more of an actual painting?
You got to paint it in there. I mean, there's probably other ways to do that, but I learned Photoshop very crudely, like one piece at a time. Like I need to learn to do this. Google this problem, find a solution, and work there. Because I don't even know if there's a manual for Photoshop. There's so much stuff I can do.
I'm sure that there's probably like a Photoshop for dummies you could find.
That's the kind of stuff I wish you could just learn at the university. Like learning annex kind of thing. Like go learn a program. Like I don't want to get a degree, and have to do all that.
I've like 6 months of Photoshop training.
Yeah, exactly. I want to go to a place where old ladies teach you how to watercolor. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, honestly, right?
Watercolor.
Kamloops
really
Art Party.
Yeah.
But they're not old. They're beautiful and young.
Yes.
Yeah, but is that one of those
And
things where
vibrant.
you draw all the same thing real quick? And I got a bar or something like that?
Sometimes
Yeah.
they do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
We did that on a stream.
Yeah,
We
I've done some of
did.
those before. Like we used to have 4 cats over here, and but no, like I want some people who like some master that does that as a hobby to just teach a class and teach her like this is what you need to know, because there's a lot of things that are tough, like what brushes to use, what pencils, what paper to use. That's all tough, right? So
That's me.
you got to find a talented hobbyist to teach you the ways.
I've got this like learn how to watercolor book, and every time I open it up to try to learn, it's like tape this piece of paper to this other thing, then lightly moisten it, and I'm like, nope, I'm done.
I get a bunch of those going every
'Cause
now
of
and
that
again.
word?
Every couple years.
No, it's just like this seems like too much work. I just want to start painting.
Yeah, and I
Oh.
try, but I usually peter out after a while because it's like I don't understand why I'm having this problem. It's like whatever, I'll do it later, and then give up for a year again. So
That's the issue. I think is maybe the giving up for a year.
I wish actually, like if I had my way, I wouldn't color it digitally. I would watercolor it all.
Really cool.
Yeah, but like I said, I'm not good with color, so I have to keep undoing it and changing it, undoing it and changing it. Like I'll have an idea in my head of what colors I want to use. I'll put it on the paper and go, that's terrible, and then I'll just edit them until I go, I like that. But my first go is usually wrong. Because I don't have a good eye for it. Yeah, it works out in the end.
I think you do.
I like the finished result, but yeah.
I mean, like it all depends on what you mean by an eye for color. I mean, there is an eye for color there. Like it's definitely accomplishing a look that I really like. But obviously, it's not the way everyone would necessarily choose to color that. Yeah. But it makes it, I think, unique and vibrant and fun.
Well, that's why I made it hot pink too, is because not a lot of hot pink comics out there. Like make it stand out, right?
Yeah, we need more hot pink comics.
That's right.
We're over time, and I don't know if the stream just shuts off. Does it shut off?
No.
We'll just keep going.
We can go, I think, as long as 2 hours, but we don't need to.
Woo! I'm done though.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for your time, guys. Appreciate it.
Anyone you want to say hello to before we leave?
I already said hi to my wife. I'll say
Yeah?
hi to you. Hi, Allison. Oh, no
I
lawsuits.
punched Star Wars Legion.
Oh, you can share. What's your favorite thing about her?
I mean, like other than just like a broad statement, like her personality,
That's a great
her
one.
sense of humor. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one
My wife
too.
is the nicest person on the planet.
Aw,
Yeah.
that's nice. That's very sweet. What a great way to end a stream.
Yeah.
Totally irrelevant to the topic.
Life The Necropolis, available here, anywhere else?
Yeah, my website. You can get them at here in town. You can get it at the House of Misfit.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
Oh,
out
we
on the
know
North Shore. She
that
has them. Yeah.
lady.
Yeah. Hi, Jess.
Hi, Jess.
Yeah, so go see Jess too. So it's on the South Shore and then on the North Shore. But yeah, my website. I have an online store there. So if you're out of town watching this, just lifethen.com. Yeah, and like I said, I mail order a lot of them too. Yeah. So yeah.
And so there's no, I guess I should have asked this way earlier, but like you talked about the first volume being sold out. Does it remain sold out? Have you gone back to print on that at all?
No, I don't want to print it again. It's done. Like to me, that was like a time and a place. It's a moment. If you were there, you were there. If you weren't, you weren't. Don't worry about it. You can still read it online.
And it's not like a hugely continuing story where you need to have read the first one to understand this current one?
No. I mean, I do that on purpose where every story is a self-contained story. It's just about, like I said, a wandering mercenary / bounty hunter. And I always explain that in the comic, kind of that basic premise. And I want each story to be self-contained so you can just read it as is. Like I tell people that, like they say like, oh, is it number 2? I was like, no, it's my new one.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's not number 2, it's my new one.
Sorry, Kelsey, we're holding up ending the stream with my,
okay.
my sudden questions.
Yeah, comics, come on now.
But I mean, my people battery's running out. That's all.
Fair enough. Okay, bye,
You don't wanna
everybody.
see it run.
We'll see you next time.
I actually heard her stomach growl too, so
Oh
she's
yeah,
Valid.
don't feed me after midnight.
Yeah.